Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to retire early and why it will require extreme sacrifice. But before I begin, I want to let you guys know that I have a free school community. It's a like-minded group of men. We share our wins, we share our losses, we share things that are meaningful to us, right? Things that we're struggling with, things that we're, things that we've maybe accomplished or things that we have discovered that we want to share with each other. And I also have 2 free courses in there, one on getting your finances together, right? Building wealth, and another on how to enhance your health, right? So, ways to enhance your health that I really kind of just don't dive too much into depth here on YouTube, right? So if that's something that you find interesting or that's something down your alley, click the link down below. So let's talk about early retirement. What age, and like I said, it's different for everybody, but what age would I consider early retirement? Anywhere between, I would say 30 and 45, right? I think that's a good range, right? And like I said, I'm just throwing numbers out there, right? Different for everybody, but I think it's safe to say that between the ages of 30 and 45, right, would be considered early retirement. So if you are someone who desires to live a life of freedom, right? Time to yourself, time to do what you wish, right? Time to spend with your family, spend with your friends, right? Spend doing things that you find meaningful or impactful, right? If that's your goal, if that's what you want in life, right? It's gonna require extreme sacrifice, right? Especially in the beginning. So I just made a video talking about side hustles, right? And there's going to be a stage, right? Whether it's for 2 years or 5 years, that you are just going to have to buckle down and put your head down and work anywhere between 60 and 80 hours a week. Now, I'm not telling you that you're going to have to work 2 jobs, or I'm not telling you that you're going to have to, miss out on sleep or anything. But what I'm going to say, I'm here to say is that most of your time, right, up front is going to be spent working, if this is what you desire, right? Because to get to a place where you're kind of just in cruising mode, right? Meaning like, you're still working, right? Like, think of all the people that live the life you want, right? YouTubers, content creators, people who do coaching, people who consult, people who, do motivational speech, like speaking, right? Or any sort of artist or whatever. These people aren't really laboring that hard, right? Let's face it. Right? Maybe they'll do a couple coaching calls, maybe they'll write a newsletter, maybe they'll write a chapter of a book, right? But they're not killing them. They're not working for more than, maybe a couple hours at a time, right? Most entrepreneurs, right? They work all day, right? But they can, they take breaks, they work for an hour or 2 at a time. So, or people who do like online work, right? Like this. So with that being said, like your desire and want to achieve early retirement is going to come down to you sacrificing, and working long days in the beginning, right? Because, if you want to, and how do you get early retirement, right? Like, well, you have to, simply, right? There's more that goes into it, but simply you retire by having a business, right? You retire by having assets, right? And you retire and those are the ways that you get paid the most. Like, you get paid the most with assets, right? Your job isn't going to help you retire. You're not going to save your way to retirement, right? Unless, like I said, you work. You can work, 2 jobs for 40 years and maybe get it by the skin of your teeth at 65, right? But at the end of the day, you're probably not going to retire, right, working that low-wage job. It's going to have to be a business that you create, or it's going to have to be some assets that pay you on a monthly basis, i.e. cash flow through real estate, or i.e. appreciation through stocks, index funds, cryptocurrencies, etc., right? Or interest accounts, 401ks, etc. So with that being said, there's a lot of ways to wealth. There's a lot of ways to financial freedom, right? Some people retire early by moving to, foreign countries that require that don't require high living expenses, right? And they just live a minimalistic lifestyle. That's one way to do it, right? But that's not everyone's cup of tea, right? Not everyone wants to be a superior minimalist where they, barely have any clothes on, they barely eat food because they watch every little expense, right, that they track, right? They track every little expense. And maybe they don't have kids or a family, right? Like, some of you guys want to retire early, but you want a family, right? Not everyone wants to be a bachelor, not everyone wants to be a guru or a monk or a sage, right? Some people want to have a lot of money and maybe be a businessman, right? Or be a coach or whatever it is. So with that being said, your way to early retirement is going to be found through assets, right? That's obvious. But to get, you need money to make money. That's not, that's kind of conventional wisdom, but you do need money in the beginning, right? Because think about it, right? I just made a video talking about this and I'll repeat it again. But your main job, right, for the most part, your 40 hours is just there to cover your living expenses, your insurance, your gas, your food, things like that, right? Everything you do after that is where, that's like, I call it dream money, right? That's the money that you use to bring your dreams into reality, right? So, all those late nights where you're working, Uber, you're driving Uber, or you're waiting tables, or you're creating YouTube content, or you're doing consultations with people, right? All those late hours that you're doing that, right? Those are the dollars that is going to separate you from 85 to 90% of people, right? Because remember, most people during those times are sleeping, right? Most people are not sleeping. They're just getting off work, they're laying on the couch. Most people have beer, most people have cigarettes, most people are spending time with their family, or cooking, or cleaning, or taking their kids to practice, right? So someone like you, right, you see that everyone's doing that, right? So it makes sense that if you want to get ahead, right, and retire before everyone else and finish working, traditionally before everyone else, then it makes sense for you to use those hours in capitalize on that time, right? And look at it like, hey, let's say you're 20 right now, right? Let's say you work 2 jobs for like 4 years, right? And you put a bunch of your money into crypto and real estate, right? You bought a couple properties. You could easily retire, by 35, right? Easily. You don't even have to be a businessman right now. If you want to really accelerate the process, right? A business is going to get you there quicker, right? But if you just worked your ass off, right? Doing side hustles, right? Working 2 jobs. Maybe you developed some sort of side hustle on the internet, right? And you just kept procuring assets over time, over like a 5 or 10 year period. You could easily be done and quit your job by the age of 30 or 35, right? And I know that there's nights where it's tough, right? Like, because if you're working 2 jobs, you're working on something like after work, it's more difficult, because it's like you have to use so much more willpower to get to the point where you're actually in that mode of flow, right? Because it's like you're tired, right? You're frustrated, you're pissed off sometimes, and it's gonna take everything. It's gonna take everything from you to get to that point where you say to your employer, hey, I don't need this anymore, right? And I think a lot of people want to do that, but again, work is something that, there's always going to be work, right? So if you're struggling in life, right, or you want to retire early and you're barely making it by, you have to sack up, right, and look at your off hours like, hey, I gotta figure something out, and these are the hours where this is the make or break, right? So for me, it's like when I come home, right, and I'm tired, right, I understand that coming on here and speaking and creating content on a daily basis is what's going to get me out of this cycle of being tired, right, of being frustrated, of being sleep deprived, of being caught up in other people's drama and gossip and bullshit, right, that I really could give less of a shit about, right? So I can't really go into depth on each thing. It would take me 50 years to go into depth on all the different ways to procure assets. And all of you guys live different lives. You have different incomes, you have families, you have debts, you have certain things that you have to deal with. So everyone's individual lives are different, so it's going to be different. Your plan, your customized plan is going to be different. But this is just a general like kind of overview of how to retire early, right? And like I said, not everyone, and sometimes I ask myself, just coming kind of on a little rant here, sometimes I ask myself, like, yo, there are so many people stuck in life, right? Just working to survive, right? Like, even people with families, it's like they work so hard just to get by, just to feed their children. And I'm like, damn, bro, like, does anyone ever question, like, hey, like, is this it? Right? Like, is this it? Is this gonna be it for me? Like, I'm just gonna work this job just to provide for my family and do, all that I can do every single day. And, like I said, some people enjoy that type of lifestyle, right? And some people like working. Some people enjoy, their coworkers and everything. And I'm not here to shit on anybody for that. But I think most people are stuck because they don't think it's possible. Like, do you really, if you ask most people, like, hey, like, think of your average person. Hey, man, you could probably retire by like 35 or 40, right? Do you know that? Do you know that that's a possibility? Most people would look at you like, no, I don't think so, right? Like, most people will look at you and probably be like, yeah, like, living expenses are crazy. Like, are you kidding me? My rent, they'll just give you all the excuses, about, oh, this is so expensive, like, it's impossible, like, do you know how much rent costs here, right? Like, people will just throw so much shit at you. But I'm telling you, it's possible. I want to give you guys hope because, like I said, I feel like everyone's stuck in a bucket right now, and we all feel like we're stuck, right? Like, there's so many, how many people, content creators or people you just know in your life, who complain about rent, complain about living expenses, complain about food or gas? It's like, don't you at some point want to separate yourself from that group of people, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, it gets tiring listening to people complain about money, right? It gets tiring listening to people or looking at people who are poor, who have EBTs and are just refuse to work, right? Refuse to get off their ass and work 2 jobs or invest their money, or stop spending money, right? Like, it gets tiring being in that group of people who just settle for average, right? So I don't want you guys to be average, right? I want you guys to have a better experience. Like, there's better things to do in life than work for 40 years. Like, I started working at 16. I'm going to be 25 here in a few months. I've been working for 9 years, right? So I've been already working for a good chunk of time, but do I see myself doing that for another 40? Like, no, man. Like, it's, eventually it's like, you got to look at it and be like, hey, man, do I want to keep waking up at 5 a.m. every single day and be tired, right? And have to listen to people's drama and bullshit, right? Like, that's eventually, that shit gets boring. That shit gets old, right? It gets tiring listening to the same garbage over and over again, surrounded by the same people who complain, surrounded by the same people who have, problems in their lives when they know, like, that they can do better. Like, it gets tiring. So, I mean, everything happens for a reason. So if you're stuck in a place where you're not happy, or you want to, get out of it, like I said, the answer is there, right? But you have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to, at sometimes, say no to your laziness, say no to time, how much free time do you actually need, right? Most of our free time, I look at myself, I'm like, damn, what do I really do in my free time? I'm not doing too much, right? So, a lot of us can just look at, say to ourselves, hey, let's work more, right? Let's do a little bit more, right? Let's invest more. Let's stop spending so much, right? And I think if you approach it from that mentality, right, and kind of do that consistently, you'll be able to retire at a good age, right? And I made a video talking about how retirement is not real and everything, but it is real, right? It's just not real in the sense that you're gonna have like this sort of life where there's no problems. Like, there's always going to be things that you don't like, right? Like, even if you retire and you live at home most of the time, or you're at home most of the time, there's going to be things that happen in your house that you don't like, right? Or there's going to be times where you look at your body and you're like, yo, man, I wish I could be a little bit lighter, right? And you're going to find a problem there, right? So there's always going to be issues in life, but I think money is something that people that's the only problem most people have, right? Where it's like, that's the thing that holds them back. A lot of the problems people have are related to money, right? So you got to really take it seriously. And, I'm not big on like craving money, right? Like, it's not something I like get joy. Like, I don't just get joy working, but work you got to work for a purpose. You got to work for a reason, right? And have faith every single day, right? That you'll eventually get to a point where you can live the life that you want to create. So, you know, it's not easy, right? Like, there's days where like I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this, right? Like, I don't want to create a video, or I don't want to go work those extra hours in the Uber. I don't want to stay for overtime at my job. But I'm like, yo, man, this is like this is what is gonna get me to where I want to be. So it's like I might as well just suck it up, right? And you know, the fact that the biggest thing that'll help you along the way, right, when you're in the trenches, when you're really grinding out these long days, is just repeat to yourself, this isn't forever. This isn't forever, right? Like, eventually you're gonna die, right? So eventually nothing lasts forever anyway, right? So I do talk about retirement like it's some fantasy goal, but you know, we're all gonna die anyway. So at the end of the day, it's not gonna last forever. You have one life to live. You might as well use your time wisely and use your time to create the rest of your life how you would like to create it, right? And the earlier you do that, right, in your early 30s or in your early 40s, the better, right? So you're not 65, you know, like people say, with gray hair and your dick can't get up, right? Like, who cares if you retire at that point? Like, you might as well just say, fuck it. Like, you know, what else? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.